Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Camcast Radio Live. I am your host, Cameron Lewis. We got a good show for you guys today. I have an amazing photographer on. This is part two of our focus on Black excellence. But in this one, instead of bringing in someone who probably has been seasoned for a while and been doing their craft for a while, I'm actually going to bring in someone who's really just getting started, but is really, really good at her craft. And that is none other than Miss Liana Lewis. Going to go ahead and bring her in.
Hello.
Hey, Liana, how you doing?
Hey. Good. How are you?
I am doing very well. I'm excited about going on ahead and doing this interview with you. Again, like I told the audience before, this is our focus on Black excellence. And I was telling them that instead of bringing in, now last time we had Patrick Brown, and he is a farmer who is just doing phenomenal things in the CBD and hemp industry. But I figured, hey, let's bring in somebody who's up and coming and actually, but doing excellent in their craft. I saw you on, actually, first I think it was my cousin Daphne posted some, she posted some pictures of the photo shoot. I was like, oh, okay, Daph, I see you. And then I saw some other pics that you did on Instagram, and I was like, okay, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and hire her for this shoot that I need to do. And we're gonna get into that a little later about, how our shoot went and whatnot. But just go ahead and introduce yourself and let the people know who you are. Give us your background and whatnot.
Okay. Well, as you mentioned, my first name is Liana. I guess, I don't even like calling myself a photographer yet because I don't think I've been doing it enough yet to have that title. But I am just literally getting into the industry. In fact, my first official paid shoot was back in December of last year. So not very long that I've been doing this. I've been having a lot of fun with it. I think within the past year, with the pandemic going on and things, I realized how important it is to do things that are fulfilling you, that bring you joy. And I was like, you know what? I'm done just working and not really enjoying what I'm doing. So I was like, I'm gonna find something, even if it doesn't become like a full-time job for me, something that fulfills me. And it surprisingly was photography. So been enjoying doing that. It's been a learning process for sure, something I'm learning as I'm going. But I've been enjoying it. I've been enjoying it a lot. So
That's good. That's good. Now tell me, tell me about your journey into it. What kind of really brought you into it, other than the impetus that you just told us about, the wanting to do something more fulfilling. But was there something that caught your attention, or how did it come about?
yeah, more specifically, I come from a pretty big family. I have two younger brothers and an older sister. My youngest brother actually has been wanting to design clothes for a very, very long time, and he finally did it last year. Well, yeah, technically this year. He launched it this year, but he was getting things prepped and things the year prior. And we're very closely knit, my family. And, he said, Lee, I want to drop this line. He's like, but I don't want to have to go looking for a photographer every time I need someone. He was like, let's keep it in the family. He was like, you like that, you're artistic, whatever the case may be. He's like, try and pick up the camera and see how that goes for you. And I was like, what? I was, I was, I was like, okay. I was like, we'll try it. But I was so nervous because it had been a while since I had ever invested in myself that much. Like, cameras aren't, in my opinion, they're not cheap. A good starter camera is gonna run you, about $1,000. So for me, I was like, oh my God. I was like, I don't know, do I want to invest in something like that and then, not be good at it? So it took my brother kind of putting that in my ear and kind of believing in me to be able to bring something to fruition. And I just kind of had to say, you know what, it is something I'm interested in. I do want to try and do it. And I decided to just believe in whatever my brother saw, even though I couldn't 100% see it at that moment. And we just went with it. And I was like, oh, this is kind of lit. So that was, it just took someone else kind of, like I said, seeing it for me and me then choosing to believe in myself and believe in what other people saw. And then on top of that, my grandfather was a photographer as well. So it is something that has been around, but just not something I 100% knew for a fact would be something that I would find myself enjoying. So that's kind of how it started.
You know, it's interesting that you said that it was somebody else, because one of the things that, you know, in my own life I have learned is that other people often have the keys to us, you know, to
Hmm.
who we are. They see things about us that we don't necessarily pay attention to about ourselves. And so they're able to
Yeah.
point out, you know, certain things that we're good at, certain things that we're bad at, certain things that we can improve at, you know, and
Hmm.
it helps to really unlock who we are to become better people.
Yeah.
Um, so I just find that really interesting. And you said your brother, he's excuse me, he launched his own clothing line, correct?
Yeah, he's launched his brand as called the Untouchables, and he's so creative. Like he gets into this mode and he just like goes, and it's so inspiring watching him, especially as a young black male, just
Mhm.
going for it. There's so many obstacles you're having to overcome, just going for what you want to do. So yeah, it's dope. He's doing great.
Okay. Now tell me about some of your, do you have any artistic influences? Any other photographers that maybe you've admired or, you know, observed their work?
Uh, I would say I admire almost anyone who's kind of doing what they want to do.
Hmm.
I try and not get too tied up into fascinating over someone else's work, because then you sometimes will find yourself trying to mimic.
Hmm.
And I feel like that's then, you lose your creativity when you start trying to mimic something. So I pretty much am inspired, or I admire anyone who's out there doing it. But as far as like someone I looked up to artistically in the photography industry, not so much. So no, surprisingly, I don't really have anyone I would say I look up to, but I feel like anyone who's doing photography and just kind of going with their own sense of style. One thing about photography a lot of people don't know is you have to figure out your own style when it comes to like your editing and like all of that, and that can take months, years to kind of figure out. So I mean,
Hmm.
anyone who's out here trying to be creative, I guess I would say I admire and I'm inspired by. So yeah.
Okay. So what do you feel like that you have gained pretty much as a photographer in the short amount of time that you have been doing it? Because like I told you before, you know, when we were shooting, I have done a few um, photo shoots before,
Hmm.
and to see how you went through your process was kind of amazing, because like like I told you, like I've seen photographers, you first of all, you didn't really take a whole lot of pictures, and I was like, but it's like every time we reviewed the shots were really good, and I was just like, man, she's got an eye. So it's kind of like there's boxers that take a whole bunch of shots but their
Hmm.
percentage is low. You
Hmm.
know, when you check the CompuBox totals, it's like, oh, he's hitting 20%, 35% of his jabs, you know,
Yeah.
whereas you took more concentrated shots and more focused shots, and it was just like a knockout with every time. It's like, okay, that's good. Okay, that's good. Okay, that's good. So what do
Yeah.
you think that you have kind of picked up um, skill wise since you've been doing
Hmm.
photography?
Um, I would say just like anything else that you're like trying to get better at, it really just takes doing it.
Mhm.
Obviously, I took a lot of time, and I'm still taking a lot of time out of my day to learn from others. I use YouTube religiously to learn, just especially right now because not really comfortable going to classes, with a bunch of people. But
Mhm.
um, I think, aside from the technical skills, just basic stuff like learning how to use the camera, things of that nature, learning how to use my creative eye, that's what they like to call it. And it's something that kind of it strengthens and gets better the more that you do photography, because your perspective of how you look at something changes. So I think a really good skill I feel like I've gained is just like the ability to look at things in different ways.
Mhm.
So I'll be riding down the highway and I'll look on the side of the road and I'll see like an alley or something like that. I'm like, oh, that's really neat. It's crazy like how differently you'll look at the world when you start trying to be more creative with the things you see.
Mm.
And so, that kind of plays into almost everything, I guess you could say. From what you wear to, what you decide to, if you, as far as like if you're planning something, just having your mind open to more creative perspectives is definitely something that I've gained. I'll also say people skills. I know that sounds like really cliche, but you would be surprised how much work you have to do within a short amount of time from the first time you and that person. Most of the time, I've never met the people before that I'm going to be shooting. So I'm meeting them for the first time and I'm like, hey, and I'm going to take your picture. So don't be awkward. So it's
Right.
like, I have like, I would say maybe 5 to 10 minutes of when I first meet someone to get them comfortable enough with me to kind of get them like moving freely and moving naturally. So I think just being able to gauge people, like their personalities, kind of figure out, okay, this person is this way. This is maybe how I should speak to them, or I should have this type of demeanor. They respond well to that. So it's a lot. It's a lot outside of just taking a picture that goes into like photography session. And I guess those would be like just getting a better creative eye and then just learning how to engage with people better
Mhm.
is something that I've definitely gained within a short amount of time and getting better at. So
Okay. Yeah, I
yeah.
can I can kind of agree with that. I especially doing podcasts, one thing that I try to do is have a preliminary conversation
Hmm.
beforehand, which is part of the reason why I have I'll have them come on a few minutes prior, but sometimes I'll actually schedule like a call,
Hmm.
and talk to people because you don't want a cold interview. You know what I mean?
Right.
Where it's like I'm meeting you for the first time. And I think even with photography, that would help. You know what I mean? Because
Okay.
like the whole body language, like you're talking people's body language. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Mhm.
and like you said, you want them to be comfortable. So I think one way, that like having icebreakers,
Okay.
you know what I mean? Preliminary icebreakers to kind of get them accustomed to you as a person. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And
Okay.
even though I didn't know you, I know how I am, and then your family.
Yeah.
So I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I know I could tell we'll have a good time. I'll be able to relax and be myself.
Right.
Because
Right.
when it's people you don't know, sometimes, or they're not that everybody has to be family, but just
Hmm.
that ice coldness can kind of lock up
Yes.
creativity,
Yeah.
and that's something that you don't want when you're collaborating with other people because
Hmm.
you can kind of have a false experience. You know what I mean? You could be like, oh, well, that sucked and that wasn't good, but it's
Right.
not because that this person wasn't a good poser and you weren't a good photographer. It could be we didn't break the ice, and
Yeah.
therefore it was personally cold, and therefore that made the art kind of come out a little bland.
That's so true. That's so true. It's really about learning how to connect with people. Not that we ain't got it. We probably won't end up being best friends like after I have a session with you, but just
Right.
knowing how to connect with people in that short amount of time and well enough so that they can accomplish what they want to accomplish and you can too. So
Right.
yeah.
So let's talk just a little bit about, or however long you want to talk about, your aspirations as a
Mhm.
photographer. Like, what are you looking to do? What is your vision?
Um, I haven't put a ton of thought into that, mostly because I'm one of those type of people that I just like to go with the flow sometimes of things. But oddly enough, there has been like one aspiration that I've definitely been like, yes, I want to do that. And it's
Mhm.
actually to be a photographer at an NBA game. I know that's
Okay.
like completely opposite of like anything that I do, but I don't know, I just feel like that like, I love sports. That environment is always like, obviously, when things are a little bit more normal, it's very, very high energy, and then just catching people doing crazy things, it's
Mhm.
really with all of the movement that happens in sports, but, like, that would be pretty fun to do, so that,
Okay.
is, like, just, like, random, but, I think I would love to be able to make it more of a full-time, thing for myself.
Mhm.
Like I said, at this point, I'm not 30 yet. I turned 30 in like 4 months. But
Okay.
at this point in my life, like I said, I'm really more concerned about doing things that are fulfilling to me. Um, I, Everything else it's important, but it's not as important anymore. And for me, if with the way I feel about what I'm doing with photography, if it's something that I can make my living off of, that would be
Mhm.
amazing. Um, yeah, I think I'm just kind of staying open to it though right now, as far as because I'm still trying to figure a lot of things out. But so I'm
Mhm.
open to kind of my aspirations as far as
Okay.
photography goes. Yeah,
That sounds good. I mean, the NBA thing, that's definitely something I
yeah.
would want to do if I were a photographer, but I don't have a camera or the skills. So, you know,
Right. Or even not
um,
NBA, NCAA is fine because I'm a Duke fan, so I
oh,
would
okay.
not
Wait
be
a
that
minute.
game.
Gotta end the gotta end the interview. Lord, we got a Duke fan
It's
over
all
here.
good.
And I'm a
It's
Tar
all
Heel
good.
fan, so we gonna have an issue. Nah,
It's
we don't
all,
have an
it's
issue.
all right.
Oh man. Oh, I
It's all
unplugged
good.
my microphone or my earbuds
Oh,
by
I
accident.
get it.
All right. Hear
Yeah.
me good?
Yeah. You're
Okay,
good.
now I can't hear you good.
Cool.
I, oh, there we are. Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Now, the next thing I want to get into, let's walk through the photo shoot that we did. I
Hmm.
want to walk through your process because, like I was saying before, I really admired how you seemed to like, you came in, you scoped the scene, you
Hmm.
looked around, and then you knew for each place that you saw, you knew how you wanted me to pose and what I needed to be doing. And
Yeah.
that's one of the things that I was like, okay, for somebody who's just starting, she's moving
Yeah.
with a lot of authority, you know what I mean, and a lot of no, really, a lot of poise, you know, because like I said, I've been in, you know, shoots and talks be like, go over there. It's like, you know, but you were kind of like, you were like a machine almost. It's like, I want to
Yeah.
shoot there, and then we're gonna go here, yeah, and then okay, let's go over here. Like it wasn't like, well, what do we do? You know, it was like you were very like laser focused, and then like I said, you kind of had the idea for what I needed to be doing in
Hmm.
in each scene. So kind of tell me about your process.
Yeah, so a lot of times, well, one of the things I definitely do before I even like set up a schedule with someone is I ask them like why they want their pictures done. Obviously, your reason behind getting your pictures done is oftentimes going to determine like the approach that I have.
Mhm.
With you being an artist, I knew like immediately, I was like, okay, we have to go for with the type of music you do, and then
Mhm.
just looking at kind of looking at you as a person, meaning like just through our interactions of talking and things, looking at your style as far as how you dressed, things
Mhm.
of that nature, that all kind of goes into me deciding what poses would be more natural. And the posing sometimes also determines the area that you should
Mhm.
be in. You leaned up against a tree with like with your attire that you had on, you leaning up against a tree with roses and a pond behind you. It doesn't really have the same feel as if you're in an
Right.
alley that's dark behind you and there's lights that are hitting you at certain spots. So you kind of have to, in my opinion, as far as when I want people to look natural with what they're doing, is kind of looking at every aspect of what they're portraying to me and then trying to find an environment that they fit into. I don't want to force you into an environment that doesn't really fit
Mhm.
you as a person, because then you get less natural movements or things look less natural for you. Um, but I will say one thing I like to do, I like changing locations a lot.
Mhm.
I don't like shooting in the same place, like at all, just because sometimes I just think moving around, you find different things. Like something I may not have seen earlier, I might see it later as long as I'm moving. So I try and keep us moving as much as possible. And then, sometimes I fake it. sometimes I sometimes I have to fake it myself as far as like knowing exactly what I want, because sometimes in that moment I may not know. But if I just, like I said, if I feel like if I keep the movement going, we'll eventually find something that makes sense. Um, but and then it's easy to do stuff like that when you have people who are like you, who are kind of open to being wherever, going wherever. You weren't like, okay, I'm tired, or oh, I don't feel like doing that. That makes a big difference. So having someone, who's kind of open to it helps. But as far as my process goes, like I said, and I'm glad you mentioned earlier, like having the opportunity to talk more to people, like setting up a meeting prior to the shoot, because I
Hmm.
feel like the more I can get to understand you as a person helps me determine where your natural environments might be, the areas that might fit you more naturally, even down
Right.
to your posing. Like you, one thing you do might be more natural for you, but if someone else tries to do it, it just doesn't look the same. So I just try and pay attention to who you are as a person, to really try and, because I want you as a person to kind of come through the picture
Right.
as well, like your personality and things of that sort. So right now, my process is just trying to pay attention to people and fit them into environments that I think they'll naturally fit into, if that makes sense. So,
Makes a whole lot of sense. Makes
yeah.
good sense.
Well, thank
Right.
you. I'm glad.
Yeah, that's like I said. You can't, working with you. You can't tell that you just started. Like
Yeah,
that's
I
a fact.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, thanks.
So, oh yeah, that's why. That's like I said. That's why I have you on. It's one thing to get the seasoned veterans in and celebrate all their accomplishments, but I think it's also important to recognize rising stars as well. You know. So.
Oh, shoot. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh yeah, you're
We'll
welcome.
see what happens.
I know you had mentioned before, when I guess when we were discussing what we were going to talk about, you mentioned something that was important to you, and that was the importance of artistic collaboration within the Black community. So
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to kind of let you talk about that and kind of fill me in.
Yeah. So, um, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this to you, but I'm from Greensboro, obviously.
Mhm.
I went to Weaver Academy, which is a performing arts high school in Greensboro. So you had vocal majors, you had piano majors, you had theater majors, dance majors. And we all went to basically we were all focused on the art. And so every now and then, I want to say maybe once a year, once every 2 years, we would get the opportunities to have what we call WAPOs, like
Mhm.
WAPO. And it's basically like a talent show. And like it would be in the middle of the day, you would be in class, you get to leave class, and like anyone in any major could do anything they wanted to do. So if you were a dancer, you could sing or whatever, and you didn't have to stay within your major. But what ended up happening a lot is a lot of students from different departments would end up joining up together and doing stuff together.
Mhm.
So like you had guys who were on the guitar, like they would put together a band with one of the singers, and then it was a lot of collaboration that was happening. And although individually, like although within our own departments we were doing really good things, like the dancers, when they danced, it was all good. But when you would have someone cross over into another department, or when you would have a piano student combine with a singer, you would get something really different than what they would be doing if they were by themselves.
Mhm.
And so as an artist, collaboration is something I've just been doing since I've been developing my art of, when I was singing. And it's something that I continue to want to do. And I feel like when you collaborate, whether it's within the Black community, or you're stepping outside, there is something different that is created when you're bringing other people together to do it. It's there. I don't even know how to completely describe it, but I think there is such an importance, and there's not emphasized enough, of unity among each other, and just
Mhm.
learning how to use each other's talents together as a whole. You create different things. And even in photography, even though I just started, one of my shoots, we did like a birthday shoot for a girl, it's her 30th birthday. And I had a girl who was, she was the creative director. So she was basically like setting up the scenery and kind of figuring out what to put where,
Hmm.
how things should be set up. And then I had a girl who was a stylist, and just seeing like us three working together in that environment, we created such an amazing experience for the girl whose birthday it was, who we're shooting the session for. And I couldn't have done that like I could have done it by myself. Like, yeah, I can like tell you what to wear and I can figure out how to lay things out, but the experience would have been completely different. And I
Hmm.
think like we miss out on a lot of experiences when we miss out on joining up together and unifying together and doing things together. And I feel like experiences are what make life. So if you're trying to get the most out of life, you're trying to have the best experiences possible. And to me, that means looking for every opportunity to join up together. um, there's so much talent out there that can be used collectively, and I know we're all out to try and get what we can individually, but I don't know. I feel like you gain more when you're not just thinking about you. So that's why I feel like there's such a benefit to collaborating with each other.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, that's kind of my take on it, and that's definitely something I plan on continuing to do as I continue to practice my skill in photography and things. So
Okay. Now, were you referring to that shoot where the young lady had that one picture with the green? I keep doing it.
yeah, yeah.
With the green. She had the green background.
Yes, yes.
Okay. When I said it looked like an album cover.
Yes, exactly. It's
Yeah,
like
that
probably
was
it's probably the favorite my most like like one of the favorite things I've done so far, and it was like working with other just some it was other people, having their input, and yeah, that it was that one.
okay.
It
Yeah,
was that
that was a nice shoot. I saw that too, and I was admiring like the teamwork, and I guess that's like I said, that was the other thing that really to me was like that's how a professional would do it. You know what I
one.
mean? Like instead of just being out there on your own, and you might be good taking your pictures on your own, but when you
Yeah.
have that team, like you said, like it created a totally different vision, and
Yeah.
the makeup artist, you had the creative director,
Mhm.
yourself, and I think there was like
A
one other
s
person,
a
right?
stylist, she was basically
Stylist.
the clothing stylist. Yeah, and I mean, like you said before, when you're around other people, they can see other things that you can't see. Like,
Right.
it even just like even when it came down to shots, like, I'm looking at something one way, and someone says, "Oh, what if you did this?" And it's something, like I would have missed that had I not had someone there who was able to give their perspective. So, yeah, there's is and like I said, I personally, especially in create, I don't know what it is about the creatives. We're
Mhm.
very, very competitive, which is
Mhm.
fine. That's good. But it's like we all just want to be the number one. And so I feel like it really lacks on the creative side of like learning to kind of work together
Mhm.
rather than separately. So
Now, for me as a creative, I'm actually the opposite. I'm not
really,
competitive. I'm more
okay.
I'm more like observant of who can do what,
Hmm.
and then I'm like, if y'all do this together, that's gonna be, that'll be tight. That'll be hot. Like
Yeah.
that's the type of person I always am. I don't mind playing the background as long as everybody looks good. You know what
Hmm.
I'm saying? Because that's what's more important anyway. Like, forget me shining and me looking good. If we're working together on something,
Yeah.
like if we did a shoot and like you had the same team, and the makeup for the, whoever, let's say was a model there and the makeup wasn't right, but the clothes look good, and
Hmm.
nobody said to the makeup artist, that's not right, or that's not
Yeah.
the look for this scene, something like that. If
Yeah.
there's no spirit, if there is competition, it's well, your job is, I'm doing mine. I don't know about you,
Right.
when you kind of have that attitude and collaboration, it's not gonna produce a good product,
Right.
but like you said,
Yeah.
that spirit of collaboration, it does unlock
Mhm.
things that were not expected and things
Mhm.
that we're not planned for. And so I think that's important. Like you said, I'm actually in talks with some people in Charlotte,
Mhm.
a young lady who's on like an arts council, and that's one of the things she's been talking about is what can they do in their city, to
Mhm.
kind of bring the arts back and get collaboration going. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to my little input on that. But
Yeah.
coming to the end of the interview, my friend.
Okay.
For the last question, just want you, in your own words, define what Black excellence is to you.
Mm, um, I I would say that I don't think it's one particular thing. Like some people say, oh, give an example of like, oh, you graduated at the top of your class, that's Black excellence, or you went to college, that's Black excellence. I think it doesn't have to be one specific thing. I really feel like if it's anything that's promoting the achievement of our community, it's excellent. Whatever aspect that is, whether you're a creative, whether you're a caregiver, whether you're a teacher, if you're promoting and the achievement for our community, I think that is excellence. And I think that if we keep it as a mindset rather as a thing that we're doing, it'll continue to it'll continue to be a good thing. So whatever you're doing, if it's promoting us all, then I think it's excellent. So
There you have it. Well, I appreciate you coming on today. I
yay,
thank you for your time, and I thank you for your talent.
yeah,
I think you already know we're going to be collaborating again soon to put out
yay,
something else.
works for me.
I almost called you today. I was like, I got an idea. I was like, no, let me develop it. So, but you're going
Sounds
to hear from
good.
me again. And I will definitely be shooting you clientele as needed, or as
Thank
I discover
you.
people that need, your services,
I appreciate
and it
it.
comes with high recommendations and have photos for reference. So,
Thank
you
you.
know,
I appreciate it. It means a lot. I was so excited when you asked. So thank you so much for the opportunity, honestly.
all right, you're very, very welcome.
All
Well,
right.
that concludes this episode of Camcast Radio. It's going to be on YouTube. It's already there live right now, but it will be available to watch. And also, once I'm done editing, it will be on Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and about 6 other platforms that I know not what they are, but they're there. And if you go to my Anchor, Camcast, anchor.fm Camcast /Camcast Radio, you can actually see what those other platforms are. Again, I appreciate everybody's time. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a great night.
Bye.